Imagine the world was a densely populated high-rise apartment building, and each apartment was a different state. In past decades, the concept of sovereignty that predominated was of the ownership of a large estate separated from other properties by rivers and deserts. Today's reality is more analogous to the ownership of a small apartment in one densely packed high-rise in which about 200 families live. As we know, ownership of an apartment in a high-rise is subject to certain duties towards the neighbors and the building at large. Ownership entails obligations and limitations. Should sovereignty be regarded as entailing similar or perhaps even more demanding duties toward others, toward the rest of humanity? In our global apartment building, several pressing questions emerge. Do states have an obligation to take into account the interests of foreign individuals and communities who could be adversely affected by their activities? Should national legislatures and government agencies integrate foreign stakeholders into their decision-making processes the way you would your neighbors? Do states have to share with strangers the scarce national resources and in general contribute to global welfare? Imagine two states. One enjoys abundance of water, one has only deserts. The outdated approach of traditional international law that emphasized independence and non-intervention, but not the duty to cooperate, is simply incapable of coping with contemporary challenges. Moreover, the old law leads to unjust outcomes. Take the European Union's food safety regime. The stringent food safety requirements create a major barrier for exports entering the European market from developing countries. These countries depend on this market, and therefore the European safety requirements affect the opportunities of farmers in developing countries. Now, the European regulatory process shifts a disproportionate share of the costs associated with the food standards on those farmers without hearing the farmers or heeding to their constraints. Shifting to more transparent regulatory processes that provide opportunities for growers to have voice is likely to reduce production costs and increase welfare in developing countries without too much costs to European consumers. Should the law recognize the right of the foreign farmers to take part in the European process of setting food standards? These are some of the questions that the project Global Trusts sets out to explore. This project is informed by the observation that when setting national policies, states routinely affect foreigners in faraway countries, often without providing them with adequate voice. The project approaches these questions from several angles and disciplines, including history, political philosophy, and political science, and revisits different legal fields, in particular administrative law, constitutional law, and international law. There are already signs that the high-rise metaphor will transform the way decision-makers view sovereignty and the duties of states. Sooner or later, others will realize that there is simply no alternative to responsible answers to future challenges facing humanity. This project is in its third year now. You can follow it by Googling one word: Global Trust.